We work hard as physicians to take care of the health and well-being of our patients. But when it comes to our money, do we have the same condition of care? Probably not. Let's change that together. Welcome to the Financial Freedom for Physicians podcast, where we'll fight and advocate for your financial literacy. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. Thanks for being here. Let's jump into the show. This week's episode is sponsored by CityVest. CityVest has quickly become the most popular and best way for doctors to invest in top-performing real estate private equity funds that are usually reserved for institutional investors. This unique access to investing in these institutional funds is available for the first time ever through CityVest's easy and secure online investment platform. CityVest does the hard work of conducting due diligence and vetting the investments. They even get a third-party due diligence report that is posted on their website. As a result of aggregating a several $million investment amount into their access funds, CityVest gains access to investing in the institutional investment and is able to negotiate better investment terms such as a 12% preferred return. You can check them out at cityvest.com or go to the link in the show notes below. Welcome everybody to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom for Physicians podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. And as you know, we talk about 4 different types of freedom: time, financial, location, emotional freedom. And in that light, our guests started out as physicians, audience, as well as guests. And now the brand has expanded so that entrepreneurs, business owners, investors are coming on to the network. So in that light, hopefully both sides can benefit. And I'd like to introduce Tom Ruwitch, and he's going to talk all about marketing and sales, and we'll go from there. So Tom, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I know you're a consultant, you're expert in content marketing, and you're also the founder of Story Power Marketing and also digital marketing. So, this is really interesting because, a lot of especially in these days, we have to grow our personal brand, and developing an online presence, digital marketing is a way to do that. So tell us more about yourself, your company, how you got started, and we'll go from there.
Sure. I'm the founder and the CEO of Story Power Marketing, and coaches, consultants, professional service providers, including physicians, hire me to help them power up their content, develop stories, more creative content, because most who are doing content in any way are dishing out the same old boring blah, blah, blah content. And then their prospects are tuning out and moving on. And then they feel frustrated and stuck. They keep hearing that content is king, that they need to do email, they need to do social media. And so they do it, but it's a slog. It's hard. It feels frustrating. And they soldier on, but they hate every minute of it. So we help our clients transform their content from boring to brilliant. And in so doing, turn the marketing process from frustrating to fulfilling and fun. And ultimately, the bottom line, transform results from pitiful to profitable. The bottom line is, if you can power up your content, develop more creative story-powered content, you'll be the one who stands out, and prospects will be more likely to tune in and turn on, so that you're putting out client attracting content instead of prospect repelling content.
I like that. I like that idea of prospect repelling. It's quite interesting.
There's a lot of that out there. Too much of that out there, right?
Yeah,
we all get it. We're on the receiving end of that. Not another one of those emails, not another one of those social posts. So there's a whole lot of that stuff out there.
Yeah. What's interesting is that so we'll talk about, for example, a lot of what you're talking about is like product market fit with the content and the but many business people say they don't have an interesting story to tell. And what's your
Uh,
response to that?
well, they're starting from the premise that storytelling and content creation is all about me, me, me. I have to tell stories about myself, and it's okay to have yourself in the content. In fact, it can be better to do that, but you want to start by understanding your prospect stories, understanding what makes them tick. And the framework that I teach for storytelling is called the 3 E's, the letter E, 3E framework. And it begins with empathy. That's the first E. Understanding your prospect, understanding your client, what makes them tick, where are they, what are they feeling, what's frustrating them, what's keeping them up at night. The second E, envision. Where do they want to go? What is it that they want to achieve? What's the pain that they want to overcome, and what will that look like and feel like and allow them to do moving forward? If you can evoke that story, that journey from before that you recognize by empathy to after that you recognize through envisioning what they want and need, then they're going to lean in and they're going to say, tell me more. Yeah, I want to take that journey. How do you do that? Those are the stories that you want to be telling. And the 30 is enable. You are an enabler. You are the one who is going to help them move from before to after to achieve the journey. And if you are able to frame it that way, where the prospect can say, oh yeah, I can relate, I want to feel better or achieve this, or whatever the story is that you're telling, then you've completely changed the dynamic of how selling is going to work. No longer are you the pitchy pest. You are now the welcome guest. You are now the person who is enabling. They're saying, tell me more. How do I do it? And now you're explaining the product, the service, the treatment, whatever it is that you offer, and they want it because you've already sold them by evoking the story, their story. Now, you can still put yourself into the conversation, but this is not all about sharing your legendary origin story of how you rose through the ranks and blah, blah, blah. That stuff only matters to your audience to the extent that your story reflects back on their story. So don't worry about it. If you don't think you have an interesting story to tell, you do probably, but that's not where you need to begin.
Yeah, I love that. It's always starting with the customer first, getting in their mind. What is their avatar? I know you have a lot of do's and don'ts for storytelling for business. Can you expand upon that?
Well, yeah, there are tons of them. And the first one that I started with, don't make it all me, 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 pitch, pitch, pitch. That's a really, really, really important one. And making well, I'll share with you 3 storytelling principles that are the fundamental do's. Okay. The first one is keep the focus on your prospect's emotional journey. I was talking about that before. The focus is really about your prospects. Number 2, keep it human and personal. One of the great don'ts of content marketing in general, is don't just dish out information. Information is not enough. And experts, physicians, consultants, coaches, whomever, they are subject matter experts. And the tendency when they're putting out emails or social posts or whatever it may be is to dish out all sorts of information. And here's the thing, and I say it with all due respect to all of you who have subject matter expertise. The information you have is no better than the information the next person over has. The question is, how are you going to stand out and be recognized and noticed beyond the person next door? So information is not enough. You have to make it human and you have to make it personal. And then the third principle is keep it simple. So many of the so-called storytelling experts and gurus out there want you to master the 7-step this, the 10-stage that, the archetypes of storytelling and all this stuff. I just shared with you a couple of minutes ago a 3-element storytelling framework, 3 E's: empathize, envision, enable. If you can master that, which is so much more simple than memorizing 10 things, whatever it may be, you're going to be so much better off than the people who are getting stuck in all that complexity.
Doc to Doc is a personal lending solution designed by doctors for doctors. We understand that doctors' financial situations change faster than an insulin drip in ketoacidosis. And we also understand that doctors are the most reliable borrowers in the world. Through our proprietary algorithm, we're able to provide personal loans at great rates with amazing flexibility because we take into account your schooling, your specialty, and where you are in the medical journey. Doctors come to us after they've matched into residency, and we loan for all sorts of personal reasons, from credit card debt consolidation to family expenses and medical bills. We speak with everyone who applies for a loan and offer fixed interest rates and flexible term options without prepayment penalties. If you're a physician looking for a personal loan, fill out our application form now. It only takes 3 minutes, and we'll get back to you with a decision within 24 hours.
You say that storytelling does not have to be so complex. And what do you mean by that?
Well, it's what I was saying before, that this idea of I'll share a story. I read a blog post recently about a guy who not about a guy, the guy who wrote it was suggesting that we learn this thing called Freytag's pyramid. I had no idea what Freytag's pyramid was. So I looked up Freytag's pyramid, and Freytag was a European playwright from the 19th century, I think, early 20th century, I forget. And Freytag created this very complex storytelling framework for writing plays. And I think that's great. If you want to be a great playwright, master Freytag's pyramid. Other storytelling coaches will tell you to master the elements of screenwriting. There's one guy out there who will talk about the fact that you as the business person, you're Yoda guiding your customer who's Luke Skywalker, and you have the backstory and the conflict and the resolution and the this and that. I have a client who came to me after going through all of this complexity. And he said, Tom, the thing I really like about working with you is that you keep it simple. I don't want to have to memorize all of the elements of a screenplay, or he didn't cite Freytag's pyramid, but it's the same idea. I don't want to have to master Freytag's pyramid to write an email or to put out a social post. Keep it simple. Don't get hung up on all of this complexity. You don't have to learn archetypes, or whatever the storytelling, the complex storytelling gurus are claiming you need to know. Just keep it simple.
Yeah. I like how you your whole premise is improving the content and making it more engaging through stories. And when we're talking about basic storytelling principles, one thing is what happens if the audience is serious business people and they don't want to hear stories. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, I hear that all the time, that, I'm a professional, and stories are for the campfire, or for, putting your kid to sleep, or hanging out at the bar. And frankly, that's one of the problems that a lot of professionals have with marketing. They try to be so darn serious and so darn professional, and they never let their guard down. They never lower that professional persona. And the thing is, I'm a serious business person. I'm here to help grow my own business and help you grow your business. So I'm not some fool and some frivolous idiot who is just spouting stories for story's sake. I am sharing stories and delivering information so that it will be more captivating, more interesting, and have more personality. People choose to do business with you when they know, like, and trust you. And if you put some personality and some storytelling and uh, some personality into your copy, people will be more likely to pay attention to you, to tune in. And the ones who are, I'm a very professional person and I'm going to sit from on high and deliver a lecture with some very valuable information, that's what I mean by the same old blah, 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 boring content. That stuff's dime a dozen. You'll never stand out if that's all you do.
Yeah. And that being said, when people, especially in today's creative age and a lot of content creators, content marketers, how do you come up with content ideas, and how do you overcome, a blockage of ideas?
Yeah, that's a challenge. A lot of people will tell me, Tom, easy for you to say, write stories. I sit down at the computer and I'm looking at the blank screen and it's sort of once upon a time, now what? Writer's block. And I feel for people who suffer from writer's block. I've had the experience. I often will share the story of a guy named Eugene Schwartz. Eugene Schwartz was a ad man in the 60s, 70s, 80s, one of the great direct response copywriters of his age. And Eugene Schwartz wrote hundreds of ads, made millions and millions and millions of dollars for his clients and for himself. And he claims he never once suffered from writer's block, not once. And when people would ask him, what's the deal with that? Never suffered from writer's block. His response was, copy is not written, copy is assembled. Copy is not written, copy is assembled. It's a profound idea, but it's a really important idea if you can get your mind around it. What he means by that is if you do the work of what I call discovering the story, if you do the work of understanding what I was talking about before, what makes your prospects tick, leaning into that empathy of knowing your prospects, understanding, envisioning where they want to go, and then understanding how you enable that. If you do the research, really know what makes your prospects tick, you will have the building blocks that you need to later assemble stories, so that creating stories is not some act of magic. It's not some act of creative genius. You don't have to be a creative unicorn to write stories. What you need to do is gather the pieces, which anyone can learn to do. I teach my clients how to conduct story discovery in a systematic, methodical way. And then when you have those pieces, you can then assemble them into different structures, email, social posts, the front page of your website, whatever the case may be. And then on a consistent basis, you're going to be evoking those same stories, those same journeys, what makes, where your prospects are, where they want to go. Where do I get my ideas for those stories? I'm not telling them the same way over and over again. I'm getting them from slice of life, things that happen to me. I'm getting them from things I read or things I see. So I shared with you a story a moment ago about, I read some article about some dude who wrote about Freytag's pyramid. I turned that into a story that evokes the journey of, hey, you can move from feeling stuck in complexity to feeling relief in simplicity. That's the story I tell, because I understand that my prospects want that journey. So if I understand that my prospects want that journey, when I read some article about some dude saying, oh, you have to learn Freytag's pyramid, I'm like, ooh, that's a story I can tell that my prospects will relate to. So it starts with knowing what my prospects will relate to, what my audience wants to know, the journey they want to take, and then all this stuff that happens around you. You read an article, you see something on TV, something happens to you in your own life. You begin to recognize those as things that you can share, tell, that relate to the stories or are the stories that have an important lesson for your clients.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. It's one thing that I love is just, being curious and, through either YouTube or, the media, and then getting ideas from there, which is, it's been really interesting conversation. Lastly, what do you think is the most important skill and quality that you need to be an effective business storyteller?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that question right after talking about curiosity.
Yeah.
Curiosity is right there at the top of the list. Listening, paying attention, noticing, because the whole idea is that storytelling, as I mentioned before, is not about me, tell. It's about listening, noticing, understanding, empathizing, envisioning, all of which requires a certain amount of habit and practice. Pay attention to what your prospects are telling you. That's part of the story discovery method that we teach. It's not just about going into a room, pulling from your head what you think makes your prospects tick. There's a whole method to story discovery that involves curiosity, paying attention, listening, noticing. Those are the fundamental skills. If you do that, you'll gather those building blocks that enable you to assemble content in a simpler way, as opposed to hoping for the creative magic to strike when you sit down to write an email or a social post.
Yeah. Yeah. This is, I really got a lot out of this, and what's really, the importance of stories and taking the information and making it engaging. So which is another level. A lot of people are interested in reading about you, finding out about you, learning, and maybe even working with you. So how can they do that?
Yeah, thank you for asking. The best place to go is to my website, which is Story Power Marketing, all one word, no spaces or dashes, storypowermarketing.com. And when you visit the site for the first time, a little page is going to pop up, an overlay on top of the front page that's going to invite you to join my email list. That's the best way to get started. Join my email list. You'll see me practicing what I preach, sharing stories, entertaining, informative. You'll laugh, you'll learn, all those great things. So join the email list. It's a great place to start. And then also look for the link on the website called resources, or maybe it's free resources, where we have a video, a 7-minute video, the 3 keys to master storytelling. We have a downloadable ebook about the Storytelling Hall of Fame, great examples of advertising and marketing that is story powered. All sorts of resources there. You'll also be able to reach out to me and contact me. After you get my emails, I'm going to provide information on how you can contact me. And I make space available on my calendar to meet with people who want to dive a little deeper, to talk about what's working for them, what's not, and how I might be able to help. I open time on my calendar. If you're really interested in diving deeper, I'll schedule time. Just reach out to me after you get my email when you sign up. And also on LinkedIn. Look me up on LinkedIn, Tom Ruwitch or Story Power Marketing. I'm happy to connect with you there.
Yeah. Tom, this has been a great discussion, a lot of pearls, gems, a great conversation. To the listeners, all of Tom's resources will be in the links in the show notes. So thanks so much for coming onto the podcast, and we look forward to hearing about your future success.
Thank you, Christopher. Really enjoyed being here, and I appreciate you and the podcast, and I'll see you down the road.
I'm excited that you made it for another episode. You are truly the best. If you've been following the show for a while, you know that my passion is to bring you the education you need to find your path to financial freedom. Please come back week after week for new content, new resources, and great guests. Until then, if you haven't already, please be sure to check out the website, www.drchrislewmdphd.com, for more support. I'll see you next week.